people kind of ignore the protocols and facts, and there are some ulterior motives that surface. But I will say that I was a little surprised with the sentence, just considering the circumstances, and I think there were also some domestic overtones in some of the reporting that I heard dealing with this young lady. So
wasn't there like a significant time gap between the time that she accidentally killed him and her texting her boyfriend or something and then calling the cops? Or
yeah, there were delays between the time that occurred, the time that she sought medical attention, whether or not she provided any medical attention on the scene. There were quite a few things that came up that were troubling. And so you know, when you start thinking about that, you just wonder about motive and, okay, let me get it together so I can try to figure out how I'm going to explain this. You know, just a lot of things that go into your mind as a person trying to figure out, as an outsider, what do I think of this situation? So, yeah, I had some issues with the judge's behavior also, but I was surprised at the sentence. I thought the sentence would have been a little harsher. But when you look at some of the other things that occurred after the whole interactive piece at the end in the courtroom, it kind of makes sense why that sentence was handed down. Not that I agree with it, but you know, it is what it is. But again, this is another reason why it's so important that everyone has to be involved in the criminal justice system. And I'm not talking about as a defendant. They have to be on juries. They have to be engaged with their law enforcement agencies, the sheriff, whoever it is that provides law enforcement, so that, you know, we can establish some relationships, but we can also hold each other mutually accountable. And I think that's one of the things that's still lingering about this whole situation, at least in my view.
Yeah, it's you know, somewhere there's a psychologist somewhere who makes a whole lot more money than me, and maybe it's somebody listening out there, that there's always, you know, now especially, you know, everybody knows the camera is on somewhere. You know,
that's
you
right.
think that people are doing things, and you know, for any kind of disingenuous, you know, there's some disingenuousness that involved in what they do, but you just don't know. I mean, and there's also this thing where people want to, you know, there's got to be some reason for this. Some good's got to come out of this. So the good then is, I'm going to go hug this person, and they want to be the one associated with the good. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Well,
I'm getting tired of it.
I hear you. Well, you know, and I know we sort of. I'm sorry. Go ahead, then, Bad. Cut you off.
Go ahead. No, I'm done. I ain't saying anything. To close this thing out.
Yeah, and I know we may have to pick this up, you know, again, because I know there's still a lot of information, and we're still getting chat messages and text messages. And matter of fact, the last one that I received was, I've been told that the judge has acted inappropriately in previous cases. So even that's out there now, in terms of the judge behaving inappropriately in other cases. So this may be a pattern that this judge has exhibited. Maybe the misbehavior in other cases was given too harsh of a sentence, or becoming familiar with defendants. Who knows? But certainly this one's going to trouble a lot of people, and it's not going away. But I know we can't keep going on and on and on. We've beat this horse to death. So Thin Bad, close us out. And great conversation, Thin Bad and Ambezi.
Yes, we've had good conversation. Good to be back, but I wish it was under different circumstances and talking about different things. I got to tell you, I'm tired of talking about this, but it keeps coming up, and it will continue to be an issue, and there are different sides of it, and we're trying to look at each one and try to make some sense out of something that just appears, you know, senseless. But you know, to call a death senseless is to say that, well, some of them make sense, and in my mind, none of them do. But you know, we've got to push on. We got to push on. As I said, we've moved from, you know, walking while black to driving while black to sitting in your house while black, with a gun that you're licensed to carry, that you could carry, and still being shot in your house. So, we hope for certain that this is an exception and not the rule, but it does bring to mind that there are just conversations that we are going to continue to have and to not be afraid to have them. Take Phil's advice and get to know your neighbors. Let's go back to talking to one another again. Do what we can do to help mitigate some of these situations. That they don't happen again. That we do what we can where we are, do something different to make a difference. So, without any further ado, without dragging this on any further, Chief.
Yes, sir.
And Beezy and your folks out there, we thank you for joining us.
Yes, sir.
We love the fact that you listen to us, and our faithful listeners. We appreciate you, and we appreciate your insight and checking us and getting us right too.
That's right.
But most of all, we want to thank you for allowing us to give it to you
straight, no chaser. Bye.
You've been listening to Straight, No Chaser. So join us next week for more hot topics. And also, you can always catch us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and of course, iHeartRadio.
So to recap, the 5 research-backed reasons that millennials are leaving the church. Number 1, church feels fake. Number 2, the judgment. Number 3, a lack of care for the poor. Number 4, the condemnation of culture. And number 5, the inability to talk through controversial issues.
We as millennials